So can you, before we get to the PowerPoint, can you kind of break down what an RMLO is and what an underwriter is? I know we got some bunch of questions initially we're going to ask, and then we'll open up for Q&A, but what is an RMLO? What is an underwriter? What's the difference between the two?
Sure. So the RMLO is originating the loan. So we are the loan officer that's going to originate for you. I guess more importantly, the RMLO is the mortgage company or the mortgage broker that is going to originate that loan for you to keep you compliant, because Dodd-Frank does have a licensing requirement. So as an investor, real estate investor, you're not licensed to do loans. That's why you hire your RMLO/loan broker to originate that loan on your behalf to satisfy the licensing requirement. So that's why you use the RMLO piece of it. An underwriter is just looking at someone's income and their debt to income ratios and figuring out whether or not that they have the ability to repay. So the other thing with Dodd-Frank, one of the rules for Dodd-Frank is ability to repay. So you do need the underwriter to review, to process the loan and say, yes, this person does have the ability to repay this loan. So that's the second part of it. With us, obviously, we do everything. We do the RMLO side, we do the underwriting side, we provide you with a full, complete underwriting package. One of the other rules on Dodd-Frank is to also disclose the loan terms to the buyer. So that is very important as well. So the buyer knows what kind of loan they're getting themselves into, right? It's all in black and white and it's in writing. And so that's another piece of the RMLO process. So, everybody just hears the word RMLO, they really don't know what it is. And it does stand for Real Estate Mortgage Loan Originator, which is across the board for anybody that's originating loans, whether it's a bank or a mortgage company or anything. So for us, in specific to what we're talking about, is we're originating those private notes, owner finance notes. So to keep you compliant, since you're not in the business, you're not licensed, this is why we come in, is to help out to just make sure that you're creating qualified mortgages. And the reason to the reason to do a qualified mortgage, right, is to get more bang, or to get more dollars for your notes. That's ultimately,
but also it's the fact of making sure if you go to foreclosure that you're not going to have a problem and your borrower's not going to fight it, right? The borrower can argue that loan was created incorrectly or illegally. Yeah. And we won't get into the legal side of it. Just the fact that understanding you can be sued by a borrower if you're not licensed and you're creating these things, or if you don't underwrite correctly.
Yes, so there's going to be several reasons. So if you say, no, you know what, there's a lot of attorneys, a lot of title companies out there that are saying, you can go ahead and continue doing seller finance the way you wish, because it's they don't understand that what's happening with Dodd-Frank is that they're protecting the consumer. So if the buyer is purchasing a home as their homestead, that's where it becomes, that it falls under the Dodd-Frank rules and regulations. So a lot of people don't know that. And so if they're going to buy that property as their homestead, they're a protected class. And so that's why you have to go through all the different qualifications for a qualified mortgage. Is number one, points and fees. You can't charge excessive fees. You get a max of 3%. Your loan terms can't have a negative amortization. They got to be under 30 years or less. No balloons. We'll talk more about balloons if you guys when we get to that point. But you can't do risky features. That's the most important thing. You don't want you want to create a qualified mortgage, a mortgage that someone is going to actually be able to pay, that's not going to default. You don't want to put risky features in that note to set them up for failure.
Right. Understand we're talking about owner-occupied homes. Investor homes don't apply here, commercial and whatnot. These are strictly for borrowers who are occupying the home you're creating the note for. So if you're doing wraps, right, and you create a note for a borrower who's to live in the home, you must be underwriting, you must be using an RMLO. You can do, or 3 or less, you can do your own. We encourage you to underwrite still with the licensed person who can do the underwriting part, but you need to understand that if you're doing this in a business, you should be doing this. So we have some quick questions. I know Nathan, I sent over to you as well. Where
got
are you
one
licensed
question.
at?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where are you currently licensed to do RMLO work?
So right now it's Texas and Arkansas. We're definitely going to go into other states, Florida, Oklahoma, Colorado. So we already have, several that we're going to put on our list to get started with that. I know, we've been here for a long time. We've done this for over 10 years. And we get the calls all the time. I wish you were licensed over here. I wish you were. And we just got so busy in Texas that it was impossible for us to take on other states. But now we are to that growth level where we can say, okay, now it's time. And now we can go expand into different states and start helping owner finance investors in different states. So definitely reach out to us and let us know what state you want us to get licensed in, and we'll get that process started.
That's awesome.
But in the meantime, though, what we can do, we also offer an out-of-state underwriting package, so we can still underwrite that file for you. So that if you're going to create this note, and you want to make sure that your buyers are meeting at least, the 5 points of the qualified mortgage, we can definitely do that for you. We can still provide you with a complete underwriting package for you to have in your files. If you do have to go to foreclosure or anything like that, at least you did that part, right? Yeah. And that's a little bit of a protection there for you.
I've got one other question just on terms and licenses and titles, I guess. Another one that we've heard is processor. Is that the same as an underwriter, or is that something different than an underwriter?
Yeah, so a processor is just an admin putting together the information. An underwriter needs to be licensed.
Got it.
Also. So yeah, so the difference is RMLO underwriters have to be licensed. A loan processor should be, by law, licensed as well if they're touching, a mortgage loan. Yeah. But yeah, so you can have a processor. Let's just say you're a real estate investor and you want to have a processor, you want to hire your own person to do it. You can, but you have to have a mortgage company, or you have to be licensed. Your company has to be licensed. And then you can hire a processor and underwriter to work under you. But the first step is to be licensed.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear all these different terms, and I'm like, okay, is that what this does? It's very confusing and very overwhelming for even us note buyers. Those who are creating these notes or following these courses of doing subject twos and wraps, I'm sure it's even more confusing because they just want to do real estate, right?
Yeah.
So
it's and then that's the other thing. That's another thing that I always tell, when we actually got a recent wrap law passed here in Texas that just added more, obstacles to do wraps. And it's just a Texas law here. But so when that happened, everybody said, you know what, this is it. I'm getting licensed. Okay. So so what happens is they start researching and they're like, wait a minute, it doesn't matter if I get licensed. I still can't do this. I mean, this is a lot of stuff to know. And I don't know all the laws and regulations and, the 900 pages of Dodd-Frank. Yeah. So some of them still got licensed, but they still use Texas Pride to underwrite and process and do the back end office work of the origination.
Good. Awesome. Okay. All right.
So
clarification.
Let's dive into. I know that there's some comments going through about independent loan processes required to be licensed in most states from SoHal, and it's in some select states the independent underwriter is required to be licensed. I'm presuming that's similar kind of thing. Thank you, SoHal, for chiming in there. That's awesome. So I'm glad those are joining in here. Feel free to ask questions. Nathan, did you get a chance to review some of the questions we got?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we do the questions, or should we get into
let's do the now. I got a PDF from you. I'm presuming we're going to run through the PDF. Is that the best way to do it, Sarah, or you have this in PowerPoint as well? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess I could have done the PowerPoint. Okay. The PowerPoint. But go ahead. Just do the slides. That's fine.
All right.
All right.
So right here on this first slide, I said safer because one of the acts is called the SAFE Act. Yeah. So just if anybody's wondering why safe, what? So it relates to the SAFE Act.
Got it. Got it.
So what we're talking about here is, seller finance stuff and the idea of what is qualified to be a qualified mortgage. And that's really protecting the borrower stuff. So I'm glad we can discuss that feature of it to make sure people understand what that means and go from there.
And again, as note buyers, this is a huge plus, huge.
Yep.
Maybe even a deal breaker. So
Yes. So if you're looking to get out of your loan for whatever reason, I highly encourage you to kind of stay compliant. So
Yeah.
as you can see, a lot of information, she's been doing it for a long time. Texas Pride has been in Texas for a long time doing all this stuff. And most loans that are being originated are in Texas. So Texas is the reason we're really focused on Texas RMLOs at this time. I know Ellis asked about RMLO in California. I have been in touch with some people who can do RMLOs in other states, so feel free to come out and talk about this. So we went over a little bit about this, Sarah. I'll let you kind of chime in here. Can you explain a little bit more about this process?
Sure, yes. So a lot of the big question is why use an RMLO? So it's been a law since 2013. So again, it's not a law that just happened yesterday. Everybody needs to get educated. If you're going to be doing this as a business, you need to stay compliant as a lender. So that's very important just to do good business. You're going to be, in the real estate game, you're going to start selling notes. You want to get top dollar for those notes. So, I mean, if you're not going to do it right, why do it at all, right?
Yep.
So that's number one. And then, so secondly, the foreclosure protection, right? So if you, and we're going to call them the end buyer. So the end buyer is purchasing a house, and, within 4 to 6 months, they stop paying. You need to go to foreclosure court. That judge is going to say, well, did you originate this correctly? Are you licensed? Did you make sure they had the ability to repay back this loan? They're going to ask you all these questions. And if you don't use an RMLO, you're not going to have the proof that you did all the things that you were supposed to. So if that were to happen, so what an RMLO does is protect you from that foreclosure court. When you get in there, you can say, here you go. I have an underwriting package. I have this, I have that. I have all my ducks in a row. I'm super organized. I am doing business correctly. And then they'll grant you the foreclosure without any issues.
Awesome.
So I don't know if we want to go into the ramifications on that, but maybe here in a minute.
We're actually bringing attorneys. So those who are coming on the 26th, we'll be doing a follow-up on the legal part of it, like what happens if you don't do these things. So let's focus on what the proper origination is, but we feel free to kind of divvy if you feel needed to switch over.